Introverted man here. Oh my God, what is going on with this? All right, I'm animated, I guess. Why not? A little something different. Okay, so we're gonna look at a video. Excuse me ahead of time if I cough, because my body's still trying to get rid of that whatever the bleep it was, and so I might cough. I'll try to not cough into the microphone. So that's we're gonna look at this video, and I'm gonna complain about it, and that's what we're gonna do. So here we go. And now I have to also warn you, this guy's very echoey because he's in an echo chamber. Anyways.
There are a host of arguments that atheists give to demonstrate the non-existence of God. I'm going to give you some. I'd like to get your reactions. Top of the list, problem of evil.
God allows evil because he allows us a free choice of whether to bring about good or evil, and he makes.
Okay, so I don't get if this is a deliberate thing that theist apologists do, or like if they're not really thinking about, like, I can understand humans doing bad things to other humans. Yeah, okay, that happens. But what does my free will have anything to do with a tsunami? Like, nothing I do or don't do creates or negates a tsunami. So if a tsunami is coming, you have to take cover somewhere. Hopefully you had decent warning. But what did free will have to do with that? Nothing. A volcano erupting or sickness, like I got sick. What did my free will have to do with me getting sick? I consider getting sick an evil that didn't need to happen. So what in the bleep does my free will have to do with those sort of evils that your pathetic response of free will does not hope to even cover?
Us responsible for each other and the world, and if we're to be really responsible, we must have a choice of doing harm or good. And he also allows natural evils in the form of tsunamis and earthquakes and diseases in order to give us the chance to respond by being courageous or being patient in the face of these evils. And he allows.
Wow, he mentioned the things that I mentioned. Okay, so his explanation for tsunamis and whatnot is so that we can be courageous in the face of that. What? Kind of what? Like you couldn't think of something like less dangerous maybe to throw at us but why do I need to be courageous or cowardly? Like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, why is that for my benefit? Is it the benefit of others? Like, and be patient or what did he say here?
Allows us to be sympathetic or not sympathetic to other people in the face of these evils.
Okay, so in the face of those evils, which are put there so that we are tested, that's basically what he's saying. It's all a test, and I can't even spell lobsters. That's how I did them. How did I do the animated face? Lobsters is the answer. Actually, it should appear on the screen randomly. Anyways, whatever. What am I saying? Oh, right. So basically, all the other evils. So some of the evil is because of free will, but some of the evil is just to test us to see, if we're good or bad, or we care about people or don't care about people or whatever. Like, okay, but did you have to make so many different versions of evil? Like how many times does somebody have to prove themselves? Like, it's just, that's bad design. So basically, though, that's his answer. It's just a big test. That's why. So the evil is put there for a test. Okay, yeah, all right. I guess it's an answer, but, kind of makes God to be a dick, if you ask me. But whatever, all right.
So they make possible us having responsibility for each other and to form our own character.
God is hidden.
Unless, of course, the thing kills you. So, like, what was the point of that? Like, okay, so it's to form the character of somebody that cared about you? Like, it's just, I don't know. All right.
Well, what's usually meant by that is it's not obvious that there is a God. True, but if it were obvious that there is a God and that he had the traditional properties, this would mean that we would realize, it would be obvious every one of our actions was overseen by a perfectly good being who would be taking account of us. And if we really knew that and knew he was watching us, if we have any natural goodness, we will want to, as it were, please such a being who is looking on us. And so we would be so naturally inclined to do the good that we wouldn't have a serious choice between good and evil. It would.
Okay, so so you always have to have some percentage of faith in God in order to, let us just say, you always have to kind of not be completely sure that there's a God. You have to have some percentage of doubt that God's really watching over you. Otherwise, you're going to behave good, whether or not it's about, serving that good God or not, because you don't want to get in trouble, right? Like, if you're monitored by cameras 24/7, you're gonna maybe behave yourself. Although that's not necessarily true. But okay, so you can't be sure about God because then you couldn't really do good or evil. Okay, so then angels could never fall. The angels they can't disobey God. They know that God's there, so they can't disobey God. So there are no fallen angels and there's no demons then. There's no Satan because the angels know that God exists. They have full access to God 24/7. They know that God's watching over them, so they can't choose to disobey God. Oh, wait, but they did. Oh, whoops. So then also, when you get to heaven, then you stop having a free will because now you know for sure that God is watching over you. And so you do good because you have to do good. So, it just leads to more questions like, how does any of this work? But why would it be that God being obvious would have to interfere with anybody's ability to do whatever in the first place? Because you're assuming that God cares what you do or don't do. That's an assumption. And in regards to certain types of God, that might not be the case. God might be concerned with not behavior, but by belief. Like, what do you believe? Do you believe that I did this cool thing for you? Well, yeah, if you had ample evidence that you did that cool thing, then yeah, of course I believe it. So, it just like the reason that God is hidden is so that you can like do good or bad stuff because you're not really sure that there's a God watching you. So then you can trick yourself into thinking that you can get away with stuff. But then again, there's forgiveness in some religions. So then you can just get forgiven by God anyways. So even if you were sure that God was watching you, couldn't you do bad and then be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. My bad. But also, then, of course, I do have to mention the psychological phenomenon that is present in like reality shows. They found this out that within a very few hours, I don't know how long it is, offhand, but if you put a camera on somebody for long enough, they will behave very good at the start. And then and you can see this in reality shows that they don't like super edit, but nowadays I think reality shows are very unreality. But at any rate, the early stuff of that was reality shows, you'd see this sometimes. That the people would start out very nice and cordial to each other, and then all of a sudden they'd just be complete assholes. Like, why? Well, because their awareness of the cameras like dropped off. Like they couldn't hyper be nice all the time. That takes energy. So the civilness that you put on when you know a camera's on you will vanish over time, and you'll become comfortable and you won't notice the camera. So if God was ever present, why wouldn't that psychological phenomenon still be present there? And eventually you would kind of forget that God is watching you constantly, and you could still do bad stuff or whatever, you know. But why? And also, why would it matter what you did or didn't do to God? Why would God care what your behavior was? But then couldn't God tell us, like, help us out? Like, should I do this good thing? Or is this even a good thing? Like, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. But God could tell me, like, yeah, that's a good thing to do. And I'd be like, all right, cool. And then not do it just to see what happens. Like, should I go down that dark alley, God? That's just it's not a good idea. There's a guy that's hiding there with a knife that wants to kill people. Okay, I'm not going to go down that dark alley. That guy still has free will to wait there, but God also has the ability to tell me about the guy that's waiting there. So, I mean, just whatever.
Be like goings on in the nursery where mother is looking in all the time. You don't hit your brother when mother is looking in all the time.
No, actually, kids hit their siblings all the time when their parents are looking. So that analogy fails. So yeah, that failed. No, kids hit each other even when their parents are watching. So that I mean, look, people even will do crime in front of police officers. This analogy fails in every way that it could fail. You're just wrong. So basically, the reason why God is hidden is because, well, I don't know. Because he, it's a test. It's a big test. Just say that. Just say it's all big old test. Just say that. I don't know. Here's an idea. Maybe God is hiding because it's really shy, or it's really ugly, or like if you saw it, your head would explode, or like you can come up with all sorts of answers for the question. None of them would be good, because they're really, honestly, like, I don't know, just the idea that this God can't show itself in a way that we couldn't mistake it for, that, like, I'm told God wants a relationship with me. Well, that's great. I don't know how I can have a one-sided relationship. Like, there's a parasocial relationship like some YouTubers have with their audience, because they're really big YouTubers. They don't really know who their audience is. Now I try to interact with my audience and I try to get to know them, Math Pig and Web Expert, Nerdy Rodent, what other, that's all the nitwits in here right now. Well, I mean, not nitwits, I mean wonderful people. See, this thing doesn't have a tongue. Oh, that's disappointing. This avatar has no tongue. Anyways, but yeah, once you get super big as a YouTuber, like you have to have like a parasocial relationship with your followers, and like famous people have parasocial relationships with their fans. Like it's a one-sided thing, basically. I've seen Weird Al in concert, like, I don't know, 6 times, something like that. I've been fortunate to do that. And I'm sure that he has no idea who the hell I am because he's met so many people. Like, your brain just forgets all the people. Like, you can't remember that many people. So, it was important to me, but to him, like, his brain has deleted me, I'm sure. What was the point of that? I don't know. Just going off on a tangent, I guess. Whatever. Go back to the video. Yeah.
Time, you hit your brother when you think mother isn't there. It's necessary for God to keep some distance, because if we really were totally conscious of his presence in this way, the temptation to do evil would be very much less.
Well, then that would be good, though. So the temptation would be less. It wouldn't be non-existent. Like, so isn't that good? Like, why tempt us with evil? Isn't there a prayer like, deliver us not into evil, deliver us from evil, or don't deliver us into evil? I don't know. Whatever. There's Scott Duke. So yeah, there's another person that I recognize as a person. Yeah. Unlike other bigger YouTubers, I'm awesome. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, back to bad responses to these supposed atheist arguments. Man, this avatar's eyes are wild. Anyways, all right.
God is a disembodied mind, and we have never seen any instance of mind or consciousness other than with embodied brains.
Yes, but any account of human beings has got to think of them as having 2 parts, a body and a soul. And we have
that just changes the problem. Now you have a soul that you have to prove, and I'm a cat now. How did that happen? Meow. I don't know.
To bring souls into account to taking to describe ourselves, because very simple thought experiment. Imagine your brain taken out of your skull and half of the brain put into another empty skull, and the other half of the brain putting into a second empty skull, and bits taken from your clone, so that put in these empty skulls, and you make the new brains in the empty skulls work again, so that you have 2 living people. Now, which of them is you? Well, they both behave like you, and
no, they would not behave like you at all. I don't think that you understand anything about how brain work. If you divide the brain, first of all, you've killed that person. They're human, don't get me wrong, but the person that was them no longer exists. You've effectively killed or murdered that person once you divide their brain hemispheres. Then if you cloned the opposite hemisphere and were able to combine it back with the other hemisphere, you'd have a blank slate brain on one side and a functional brain on the other side, and that person, if they were somehow still alive after that, would be completely different than the original person ever was. So, the you that you're talking about would not survive that process, and both of the individuals that you create from such a process would act nothing like the original, and they couldn't act like the original because half of their brain is missing, and goodness knows, you know, how much they'd be able to do anything in that situation. But yeah, this doesn't prove a soul. It just shows that you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Have some of your thoughts and memories, but there would be an unknown truth as to which is you. Clearly, either you might or might not have survived the operation, but mere knowledge of everything in the physical world would not show that you had survived the operation.
Yeah, because you didn't survive the operation. That's the problem. You know, you became a banana, basically. The moment that if you take any piece of my brain out, I'm basically a different me. Now, how much of a different me I am, I don't know. But if you split my hemispheres, I am not the me that I was anymore. I'm completely something else. I don't know what I'd be. I don't know if that my left or right side would know that they're me anymore. I have no idea. I know they've done studies on, you know, split brains. I don't know offhand if those people knew who they were anymore. But yeah, this doesn't prove that there's a soul, or that we need to have posit a soul. It just shows that you don't know what the bleep you're talking about in regards to brains. And yeah, we wouldn't be able to show that we survived that because we wouldn't survive that, as far as I could tell. Anyways.
Yet there is a truth. And that would show that being you is something other than and beyond everything concerned with the physical. And that shows that what you are is something non-physical. You are whatever it is that goes from the original you to one of these half brains, but you don't.
That's not what. Look, that doesn't happen. You don't. The you that everybody recognizes is vastly altered by such drastic changes. And there was that guy way back when, you know, he was working on the railroad all the live long day, you know, just to, you know, while the hours away. And now that song's in my head. Anyways, he had a spike go through his head, and everybody that knew him said that after that he was a totally different person, because he was. So yeah, this is just like yeah, you are different. In fact, the you that's sitting now, if we were able to get the past self from, let's say, when you were 10 years old, and have you as an adult talk to your 10-year-old self, that's a different you. And you know, there's a 10-year-old you, and then there's a however old you are now you, and those are very different people. So the illusion of self is an interesting illusion. I don't know enough about neurology to explain that, and certainly this guy doesn't either. But to posit a soul to explain the continuance of me, the sense of me, is unnecessary. The fact is that my brain produces this sense of self, and whether or not that sense of identity would survive any sort of drastic brain alteration is, from the outside, doesn't appear to be so. Internally, I don't know what it would look like, and I hope to never find out. You know, but I am donating when I do expire physically. My brain, I want donated to science, so maybe they'll you know, do some weird stuff with it, and I'll find out whether or not I survive any of that. but that would be because the brain survived and not because there's a soul. And if there is a soul, you'd have to prove there's a soul. So so none of this answered the question.
Know which. So we're already familiar with a spirit which is essentially immaterial. So
no, we're not. We're not familiar with that, because that we wouldn't see what we see in divided brain studies, or people with what about people with amnesia? They don't remember who they are. There's a guy, I read about this ages ago. There's a guy that he forgot his entire life. He had some accident, and he he stayed married to the woman that said she was his wife. He doesn't remember her, but he kept living this life even though he didn't know anybody at all. I thought it was interesting that he decided, well, I'll do it for them, but I don't know these people. I'll get to know them over time. But he was a different person from that moment forward. The him that they knew was reset. So there was no survival. So what? The old him was gone. So we still don't have an example of a disembodied brain, or disembodied mind without a brain, because you still need the brain to have the self, and then everything you're saying about the self is just contradicted by actual real science. But it'd be nice if you had a single study to cite. You don't. That'd be nice.
So there's nothing totally remote from our general awareness of the world in postulating a God who has this character.
Another argument for the non-existence of God is the violence in the universe.
What sort of violence do you have in mind? Do you have in mind the planets clashing into each other?
Sure, asteroids, comets, chaos.
What on earth is wrong with that? Violence is a bad thing, of course, if people get hurt and feel pain, but the smashing of one comet into a planet is a beautiful thing.
Unless you live on that planet, like, hey, the dinosaurs, I guess they're free will. Here comes a meteor. God's like, yep, well, they've got free will. They get to show each other how much they care about each other. Here comes a meteor. Well, I'm gonna wonder if they're gonna be courageous or not. Meteor hits the planet. Dinosaurs are fucking dead now. Well, at least I know which dinosaurs were courageous and which ones weren't. Yeah. And so, what was wrong with that? That was fine. That's fine. Anyways, this guy's a moron.
We saw, I think it was several years ago, that a comet smashed into Jupiter, and it was watched by everybody on telly as a beautiful thing. The behavior, the regular behavior of the stars and the planets, the regular behavior on top of which there are explosions producing new stars and new planets. These are part of the dance of the heavens. They're wonderful.
How about
so they're just wonderful. That's all. Why is the universe so chaotic? Because, it's pretty. And, oh my God, I'm a girl now. Hold on. Oh, it doesn't show what my hands are doing. All right. Well. Hi. Hello, everyone. Hi. Hello. Yes, I'm a VTuber now. I'm a pretty girl. And okay. Anyway, sorry.
Wastefulness of the universe, all this activity, it seems so inefficient if human beings are the object of this whole thing.
Well, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And God is not short of paint. If we waste material, we throw away something that could be useful, and therefore we deprive ourselves of material which could be put to a better use. But God has an infinite number of materials, and I think can get wasted in that sense. He can create any material he wants for any purpose. But I think the question you're in effect asking is what's good about the vast numbers of galaxies, stars, planets, and so on, which are probably almost all uninhabited? Answer, well, just look through the telescope. It's a very beautiful thing. It's a dance.
It's just pretty. God just put it there because it's pretty. But what about all the stuff we can't see? Like, well, it's pretty. But yeah, but why? Like, it's pretty to God? God needs pretty stuff to look at? That God was like already complete and has everything that it needs because it's God, right? Like, is God anymore? Does God need, what does God need with pretty planets? I don't think that this answered the question. It's just really pretty for us to look at, except for the ones we can't look at. Okay. And then God didn't tell us about the telescope. We had to figure that out. So there was lots of pretty stuff that we couldn't see for a long time. But, whatever. Meow.
People in the Middle Ages, when they had a great deal less knowledge of what the wonders of the heavens, talked of the music of the spheres, the music which was so beautiful that humans couldn't hear it, of the spheres which carried the planets round the Earth. And we can see it. We can see through our telescopes not merely, or not at all really, how it is at present, but how it was in the past and how it gradually evolved. And even if no one else can see it, God can see it. Just as a painting is a beautiful thing, so a living and vast painting is a beautiful thing. And that's what the universe is.
About Steven Weinberg's famous comment that the more the universe seems comprehensible, the more it also seems pointless.
Well, it might or might not be pointless if there was no God, but even so, I don't think that's right. It's good in itself, these inanimate wonders, and if they throw up life, as they sometimes do, a conscious life, this is wonderful. It's wonderful for anybody to have an experience for half a second. To be aware of things for half a second. And there's lots of people with lots of awareness having lots of happiness in pretty mundane ways. That's good in itself. But of course, even better.
So being aware is good, Yeah, okay, I get, unless it's bad. And the bad is there so that you can, like, be good or courageous because... Why? Why do you need to be courageous or good? Like because God wants you to be, or because you want to be? If you want to be, then what does it matter whether I know that there's a God or not? None of this makes any sense. I'm a cat with a crown on my head. I'm changing colors. None of this makes any sense. Neither does this video. I don't want to say it. No, I don't. No, I don't say it. Don't save. Just do whatever. Revert me back there. Okay.
Is the ability to think and rationalize about things, and above all, given that there is a God, to come to know an omnipotent and omniscient being who can help us to perfect goodness and to understand progressively over infinite time the wonders of the universe.
How about the religious contradictions? All the different religions of the world with hosts of different doctrines which fight with each other. Doesn't this show the non-existence of God?
Well, the fact of there being different religions, some of whose essential propositions are contradictory, gives us the opportunity to think through which are right. We're not given the answer. We're asked to look around and see which makes the best sense of the world, or not to bother.
Okay, so there's lots of religions that we've made up so that we can decide which religions are true even though some religions are never going to be known to us because they're going to fade from history, and some concepts of God are going to be so foreign that you couldn't accept them. And it's all there just so that you can, decide, look around, or not. Just, you don't have to. So it's there because it is. Just, great answer. Wonderful answer. What a non-answer that is. That answer makes as much about, oh, God. That answer makes, I'm sorry, I'm a fish. I can't really think when I'm a fish. Turn me back into something else. Uh-huh. All right. Here we go. That's better. Now Steamboat Willie. Why not? Yeah.
And we therefore have the chance to try and find out if there's God and get to know him, or not bother. And that's one of our greatest choices.
No. It's not a choice. I have no choice. I can't choose to just decide to believe in any God arbitrarily. I can't do that. Like, I don't think I can. Maybe I can. I don't know. But I'm not going to try. I'm not going to try to make myself believe something that I don't have empirical evidence, repeatable tests, or a valid and sound argument for. So the very hiddenness of God prevents me from believing in God. And I have no choice in the matter. That's just how my brain is. And I didn't have a choice in the matter. So, no, this is just not an answer.
What about religious wars when different religions fight with each other? Doesn't that show the absurdity of the existence of a God supposedly behind all of these?
Religions differ in the extent to which they permit wars for the purpose of expansion. But certainly the Christian religion provides no justification for having wars of expansion. And the fact that Christians have conducted such wars is a terrible thing. But
it has no justification for expansion? Really? I don't know.
It only illustrates the obvious fact that people often don't live up to their principles and hide from themselves the parts of their religious creed which limit them from doing what they feel a natural inclination to do by way of...
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you guys are still following all 613 laws. You didn't just discard those when they became... Oh, wait. No, they did... They don't live that way anymore. Oh. So they just, ignore parts of the Bible when they become inconvenient. Because, I mean, Jesus did say, don't worry about those laws. Just love your neighbor as yourself. And that's it. That's the only thing you have to do. Except you also have to believe in me because I'm the only way to the Father. Also, you have to accept that I died for your sins. Also, by the way, you also have to believe in that I'm God. But also, you need to be baptized. But maybe you don't. But also...
of bashing up the neighbors. The religion is provided to make saints. It doesn't start with people being saints, and it's terrible when it's taken over for the wrong purpose. But that only shows the need for a thorough religion and not an abused religion.
And we've never had that because part of religion is to continue to propagate itself or it dies. Religion dies if it can't get in new members, new, congregations, more members. You have to assimilate or you perish. The idea dies without people. So you have to incorporate methodologies to get people in, to convince them that you're the better church, that you're the right church, and that's going to inevitably lead to all sorts of corruption, especially because money is involved, because, well, you need a building, you need a place to be, you need stuff to offer. You know, I've seen the mega churches, you know. I have a little story about a mega church. I went to the community college. There was 2 campuses, and one was further away than the other, and I'd never been there, so I'm driving there for the first time, and I see this big, giant place, and I'm like, all right, that's got to be the college. And I pull over, and I start walking up, and like, go in, and I'm like, is this the college? You know, like, no, wait a minute, this is a church? And I asked the people that were there, I'm like, is this a church? They're like, yeah. I'm like, this whole thing? Like, they had rooms, so many rooms. They had racquetball, they had tennis court, they had, I don't know what they had all sorts of stuff. Just like, it was ginormous. Thousands of people. This thing was actually bigger than the community college was. Like, it was massive. It was crazy. So I drove out of there and went to the actual community college so I could go to the class. I was like, oh my word. Insanity. Anyways, so yeah, of course it's going to lead to corruption. Yeah. So, but why would God want that? Like, well, it's another test, I guess. Let's see if those people corrupt religions. Oh, look, there they go, corrupting religion again. Well, what are you going to do?
Scholars would say that every fundamental scripture of every major religion either has overt contradictions within them or flagrantly misstates some facts of the world or science or something. So doesn't that invalidate any revelation from a God in any scripture?
It rather depends on the religion. For some religions, the book, the written text, is the revelation. And that, I think, is a correct description of Islam. The Quran is the revelation. That is not so for Christianity, because...
Yes, it is. Don't lie. Yes, it is.
For Christianity, the revelation was a person, Jesus Christ,
who's in the book. He's in the book. You kidding me? The story is in the book. You don't have the guy without the story. This is ridiculous. Oh, man.
Who taught a message and whose message was propagated by the church. That finally endorsed a Bible somewhere around the 4th century, but it endorsed that Bible with all sorts of qualifications that some of it was written for an ignorant people, as Aquinas put it.
Well, here's the problem. We don't know what the hell was written the first time. So that look, even if the event happened yesterday or today, sure, the event, whatever the event is, happens today. Let's just say that some extraordinary event happened today, and you didn't have a recorder with you, you didn't have your phone with you, you didn't have a way to record it, but you saw it, and you know that you're not hallucinating. You're pretty sure you're not hallucinating. Maybe a few other people saw it as well, and it's just some weird thing, like, I don't know, it's just some branch of a tree like is hovering in the road, and you're like, what the heck? And you're looking at it, and other people are looking at it, and you're like, what the bleep is this about? And you go and you touch it, and it falls to the ground. You're like, well, that was weird. Now, you could tell me about it, but I'm going like, yeah, right. Yeah, that doesn't happen, And without any way to prove it, you've got a story, and got a few other people that agree with your story, but I have no way to confirm it. I have to be skeptical about it. You know that I have to be skeptical about it. And you, as a skeptic, how would you convince a fellow skeptic of that event. You couldn't, because you don't have the tools available. You have no idea what happened, other than broad strokes. You're like, well, I saw what looked like a branch, tree branch floating in the street. All these other people, we all saw the same thing. And I went over, I touched it, and it fell to the ground. Seems to be made out of wood. Okay, let's bring in the branch. Let's examine the branch. Let's get some testing done. Let's look at the street, because you're gonna. The first thought is like, if this event happened, then it's probable that it's some, illusion. Somebody strung up the branch with a string or a wire. Maybe they use magnetics. That's going to be my first go-to, is to try to explain this naturally, because, well, that's the best route to assume, because we have never observed anything but natural explanations for events. So that's even assuming that I believe you, or that, if we wrote down this as best as we could, we should have no reason to think that people later on will believe our story. And in fact, I'd say, look, I don't think you'll believe this. And in fact, I would write down, you probably shouldn't believe this, because I have no way to prove it. That's what I would write if I was trying to record the event. So then you have the problem of, okay, so you have that writing, and for whatever reason, that writing is lost or destroyed. And people remember the story, they remember parts of the story, and so they come together and they write down what they remember of the story. Now, how much of the original is going to be preserved? Well, it's hard to say. But if you've ever played a game of phone, or, I have different names for it, different places, but you whisper a word to the person next to you, they whisper the word. Even when you say the word out loud, you can lose that over time. The more fun way is you draw the sentence that came before, and, so you can find certain things that will survive the process, like giraffe. That seems to survive the process pretty well. Almost everyone can draw a giraffe. Surfing, that seemed to survive pretty well. So there's certain things that, like, people are really good at drawing or communicating through drawing that would survive. But then there's other things that wouldn't survive that process. And then the longer that process goes on, the more it is. And then, of course, when people are motivated by money and self-interest to change words, and that you have rampant illiteracy, everywhere, where people can't read or write, you're relying on the people that are conveying the story to actually convey what's actually written and not their own version of it. So the problem with the written accounts of these events is we have no reason to think that they weren't all just made up in the first place, but we also have no reason to think that we have a version of whatever the belief the original was, or any pieces of it left. We have no way to know what bits of the original are left or not. Why would God allow such a crummy process for such an important message to be in place, unless it's all about, well, more mystery, let's make sure that the people can never be sure that I exist, so that, they're not sure that I'm watching them, so that they can maybe do bad sometimes. It's just, oh, man.
And therefore it expressed its message in terms of outdated science or mistaken history, and all the fathers, the theologians of the early church, made the point that a lot of the Bible couldn't be taken literally and so on. That is often forgotten by modern Christians, especially by.
Yeah. Isn't it sad that they didn't listen to those church people that said, which it occurs to me that instead of just relying on people to say, hey, look, this part of the Bible is not to be taken literally. Why doesn't the Bible say, okay, hey, idiots, this part isn't meant to be taken literally? All right? We'll let you know when the Bible is meant to be taken literally, and just tell us. Just don't assume that we'll figure it out. Just say the following is fiction. It's metaphor. It's poem. It's song. Don't think that this applies in any way but metaphysical, or metaphorical or whatever, right? And then be like, okay, we're done being metaphysical. This part is actual history. Why not just say it? Don't leave it up to the people. Encode it into the Bible. That would make sense, though. Well, okay, do things that make sense.
Modern Protestants who think the Bible is the Christian religion. The Christian religion is the church and its central teaching, e.g., its creeds, and the
the real church is the Catholic Church, of course. And who was it? The guy said Paul said I sound kind of like the guy that said the gravity. Don't you know what gravity is? Gravity! No, I'm not that guy. Let's see, where is that guy? If I can find him. Oh. I've seen him. I don't know who he is offhand. Not me. I'm not that cool. He's been around ages. Way longer than I have. But yeah. Anyways. Back to the video. And Thomas is here. Hi, Thomas. See, I recognize my audience. Yeah. No parasocial relationship here. Unless you want one. Then okay. You can have that. Whatever kind of relationship you want with me. Well, you might want to email me because, to be honest, it depends, But, let me know. If you're a girl, then we'll talk. If you're a guy, we can be friends. But that's it. Unless you do stuff for me, then we'll see. Could be more. Don't know.
The Bible as interpreted in the light of those creeds and in the light of what we know about what else God has done by way of science or history.
I'm not sure that strengthens your argument, because if one looks at church history and some of the things that they have espoused, they seem a lot worse than stuff that's in the Bible.
Yeah,
I think it depends what you have in mind, but what a phrase I used, I think, was central doctrines. And what I meant by central doctrines, the doctrines which the church councils had seen as codifying the essence of the Christian religion. And the central doctrine, which is espoused by all Christian bodies, which derived from the early church, which is still extant, is the Nicene Creed. And I don't think the Nicene Creed is open to that sort of accusation.
Oh, I don't know. In Creed. How did they go about deciding, which things to keep and which things to not keep? Nicene Creed. I believe in, what is it? I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, all things visible and invisible. I believe this, I believe that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so, okay. But who decided that was a central thing? Like, how did they decide that? I don't know. Just a bunch of dudes said, yeah, that's the thing. We like that. That's our thing. That's what we want. We want that. We like this. This is our thing. That's our creed. We're going to stick to it. We're going to say it a lot. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. Like Virgin Mary, that's not true. Was young woman. But that's okay. We're going to just decide that means Virgin Mary. And yeah, that's what it means. Doesn't matter what it actually says. How did we decide that? We just did. It sounded good, so we did. We just decided that. And that can't be. You can't say that's bad because it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's good. It's good. Okay. Almost done. Almost done.
Of course, certain branches of Christianity have at times propagated certain doctrines, but the church has always recognized that one has to work out doctrines, and not everything that somebody's espousing at a given time has really captured the essence of Christianity.
Unless it's the Pope. The Pope can never be wrong. Everything that the Pope says is absolutely true, according to the Catholic Church, even if it contradicts the last Pope, who whatever they said was absolutely true at the time that they said it. So if the next Pope's like, yeah, that last Pope was completely wrong, well, then yes, that's true. But it's also true that the last Pope was also completely right when they said everything that they said. No contradictions here. None of it makes sense, but let's just pretend that it does. Whee!
But what Christian councils have endorsed and subsequent councils have endorsed and has been universally recognized, that I would stand by.
Well, that's my atheistic list. What do you think of the totality of it?
Doesn't work.
Wow. I don't know that those were atheistic arguments per se. But his answers didn't really answer anything in my view. And I think that the easier answer is to any of these questions is that God is a construct of our mind that we made up, and that's it. And believing that it's more, fine. I understand that. I mean, that's psychologically understandable. Yeah. The problem comes when people say that it is real rather than it's just, I believe that it's real. Then I have to stomp on them, I have to point out how wrong they are about that or how little evidence they offer. And we saw that here. He offered absolutely no citations regarding the brain and how the brain works. If you want me to, I'll find those studies on brain hemispheres and post some links or whatever. But I wasn't making, any super mega claims. I could be very wrong about it, but definitely because he didn't cite anything that supports his side, we automatically have to be skeptical of his ideas. Why should we go look for the thing to prove or disprove his idea? See, that's a problem. You need some citation for us to believe that you're right about your identity surviving this weird process. And of course, he's talking about a sci-fi. Well, I guess I don't know if we could do it with our technology, but he's basically talking about a sci-fi process that's never been done to humans or anything for that matter. So you have zero examples of this. And so we have to be skeptical of your ideas about how the brain works and whether or not personality is preserved in such a bizarre process that you outlined. Any rate, so he offered no evidence, no test, and as far as an argument, well, no, he didn't even give an argument. He just gave answers to these questions, and I find those answers unsatisfactory. So try again, I guess. I mean, my argument against God depends on what God is, I suppose. But, I don't know. As far as the Catholic Church goes, I don't care what they say until they excommunicate Hitler and, go ahead and make sure that they got rid of all the pedophiles that are in their church. And maybe, I don't know, let your pastors get married so that there's less chance of that stuff happening. Also, I want an explanation about what happened at midnight. That one church, you might have not heard about it, but there was this whole town apparently was wiped out, and all that was left was like ash. But these two kids swear that, like, they were for a while cured of illnesses and stuff. It was a really wild thing that happened. And the Catholic Church has just been really quiet about it. But I think they know what happened. And they're hiding it from the rest of us. And I want to know more about that incident, the Midnight Mass incident. And if you know, then you know. And if you don't know, don't worry about it, because it's an inside joke. All right, until next time, I'm the deconverted man as an avatar. And, sometimes I'm a cat, sometimes I'm a fish, sometimes I'm a banana, sometimes a girl, sometimes I'm all sorts of things. But mostly I'm a skeptic. And you should be too, because we have candy. We don't actually have candy, but, I don't know. I got nothing. See you next time. And until then, be skeptical. And after then, stay skeptical. Meow.